Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Thread to Threshold. I'm your host, Phil Rice, on this beautiful Saturday, 22nd of August, 2020. I've got the very cool, the very awesome Dr. Richard Allen Miller with me again today. And just before we get started, I'll turn the monitor off. Before we get started, I'd love for you to join me in a quick meditation. We're going to move from the profane into the sacred. We're going to start our little pattern by bringing our hands together, however you choose. Put them on your lap, close your eyes, and take 3 deep breaths in the nose, out the nose with me. Let's bring ourselves down to a nice sweet spot where we can really engage with what the guest is going to bring forward today. Breathing in. Hold it. And release. Feeling good. Feeling good. Breathe in again. Feel your tummy expanding, your rib cage and your chest expanding, opening up. And release. Breathing in one more time. Big, deep, filling breath. Hold it. And release. Thank you so much for all of you being here. We're going to give Rick some questions towards the end of the hour. So please throw them into the chat and, put some comments in and things of this nature. I just want to quickly put on here that if you're enjoying these shows, please, by all means, send me your encouragement. There's my email address on the screen there. And there's also, that's also the address you can use if you'd like to make a donation via PayPal to support the effort, the cause, and whatnot. All is appreciated. Thank you so much. But without further ado, I'd like to bring forward our most illustrious, wonderful, amazing guest, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. G'day, Rick. How are you, brother?
G'day yourself. Listen to you. Down under, it's hot and stronger. So it's just the opposite, like a adaptation process, huh? Into the out of New Zealand versus Grants Pass, Oregon.
Well, we're certainly, we're almost, we're not quite on the opposite side, but we're certainly on the underside of things, or are we on the overside? Which way does the planet go up? If you look at the map upside down, New Zealand's like the pointy thing.
Yeah, I like to hear the thunder. Can you hear the thunder? What was that? Boys, not Boys from the Hood. What was that called? Talking
Men at Work.
No, something else. There you go. Working hard, I'm certain. Can you hear the thunder from down under? Half your ocean down there between you and Antarctica is all deuterium. Did you know that's where they mine it?
So what do? They suck up the water and start processing it.
Yeah, sucking up the water, all right. Yeah. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Will, we were talking about that earlier, Thelema. That was what Crowley added to the Greek pantheon, was that there were 3 primary words for love. There was eros, philo, and agape, and brotherly love. And he came up with a 4th word, which is telema, or thelema, which is the love of will. That's your purpose here. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. That was his primary contribution to magic going from the 19th century into the 20th century. What I'm going to try to do, I'm not a Crowleyite. I belong to OTO. I was offered caliphate at one moment by Phyllis Seckler, who was married to Grady McMurtry, and who was the caliph. And when he died, the 3 witches of Endor, that's Phyllis Seckler, Mildred Burlingame, and Helen Parsons Smith, wanted me to be the new caliphate because I was the physicist that didn't blow himself up. Jack Parsons started Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and L. Ron Hubbard only made it to 3rd degree, by the way. I don't know if you're into knowing any of that trivia stuff. He was a dabbler. He was not an active participant that was going for the great work. The great work is personal development, like spirituality, where you go into the ashram and you study under a master and you start to train your mind, meditation. I did that early on. I was already deep in OTO at the time. My history started with the Church of All Worlds with Tim Zell, neo-pagan, and I started writing for Green Egg in 1968. By 1972, I was writing for Llewellyn out of Karl Wachowski and Sandra. They had a Llewellyn Books out of St. Paul. And when Isaac Bonwitz retired, he got his degree in magic from Berkeley. Got a degree in magic, by the way. It's on his back of his book. In fact, I don't have it handy, so I could show it to you. In any case, he took over and was editor of Nausicaa News before he started the Druidic Society in New York City, which is where he ended up. Isaac, I always called him Isaac the Unlikely. He was my friend and a scholar, actually. And that's where I then went from neo-paganism. I was in Church of All Worlds. I then initiated into the Coven Camelot, Star of the North. With Sandra Wachowski, I got to 2nd degree so I could offer initiations. And then I met Phyllis Seckler. And she saw me doing Tai Chi down on Alki Beach one morning and decided I was going to be trained to be the new caliph from the get, when her husband Grady was the one running OTO out of San Francisco. And basically, that's the outer lodge. The inner lodge, AA, or Argeum Argenum, or Order of the Silver Star. I'm Jane Wolfe Branch. I have initiated in my own and have my own lineage now in AA, which is the inner lodges. I also belong in magic lodges. Oh, geez, the list goes on and on. I met Denning and Phillips, Mildred and Vivian and Leon Barshinsky. They had started Aurum Solis, the Order of Sacred Stars, and out of England. Golden Dawn had lapsed and had not re-entered in yet. And so OTO was pretty much what was available in lodges, other than these little creepy side things that are going on. And I was a scholar. What I did is I learned Old Hebrew and Greek, and I speak both of them, to study with Gershom Scholem out of New York City College, and I became a Hermetic Kabbalist. I'm a really accomplished physicist that taught all of that at Harvard for 11 years. I taught 15 courses. This was during a period when PC Link was becoming AOL. Mark Hume, who was starting that all up, hired me to set up the download libraries and chat rooms. And that's where I started teaching metaphysics as a formal course through IES out of Humboldt University. That was the first online university in the world, called Interactive Educational System. And the course I taught was credited at Harvard. It was considered a graduate level course because of the scholarship level I taught it. And John Mack took my 3rd course in 1992. And that's when I started in 1990. In 1992, I took my 3rd course and then started alien abduction studies. And I was part of several of those studies with him. And I quietly reminded him that he wasn't going to prove the existence of aliens with his studies any more than he's going to prove the existence of God. But what he could do is treat the trauma of a group close encounter. When people were having these close encounters, the Snows and some of the other famous cases, they were traumatized. And like targeted individuals are today. It's an archetypal thing. Are aliens real? It's like space and time. To conceptualize an alien as a being from Mars is kind of a stretch when you realize that space isn't real. It's a construct. So is Mars real? Well, yeah, it affects man's consciousness from astrology into astronomy. And what I'm doing now is talking about cosmobiology, the next level of how astronomy morphs into something more with biorhythms and the relationship like that. That's part of the studies I did for the military. But my magic that I'm going to talk about, or what I'm familiar with, is the fact that the laws of physics change with different altered states of consciousness. And what I'm trying to do now is map where one starts and the other ends as tools in a toolbox. If I want the strength of 10. You know, my early work on ESP was the first one where there was a hypnotic state, where if you go into this state, your ability in guessing is 400 times over where you are right now. That's the ESP induction through forms of self-hypnosis. That was the first protocol. I trained SEALs on it. Navy SEALs became Supermen. One other that I did, oh, you'll love this one. I started with a didgeridoo, an antique old farm type of nostril, you know, learning how to blowing. And then I gave the SEAL a simpler, bigger one with, but it's longer, so it has the same tube because it's smaller and it's easier to blow. And actually, the lip is off it now because that's what you need to get a seal on your mouth. Yep. Once they were able to do that, controlling breath could take their martial arts to a paranormal level. The next stage was to do it with Kenny J, where you started with an Indian flute, like something out of Kill Bill, where you know, blowing a flute, and I have to set the thing. It's all not set right now. But in order to do the flute, I started them with a practice one, so that it, you know, they could learn how to blow a continuous tone for more than. I dropped something here. Yep. Because once they did that, then we graduated them to the little pipe of Pan, and being able to do that continuous for 9 minutes like Kenny G does. Now you learn how to control your breath. And I'm going to show you how you can do some serious magic just with martial arts. Precision of movement when you're experiencing it in slow motion converge on a paranormal level. And that's what I'm doing in magic. I'm now studying various forms of magic as tools in a toolbox. You'll notice this is all done just like an American flute, with all the setting, the pitch and pipe and all the whole thing like that. This is something I did in 1968 as part of my magic rituals of developing personal control of myself. And I offer that to show you that once you learn how to do that, there's a variety of things that you can do paranormally. Now, if you can recognize the release of certain neurotransmitters in your brain, you can induce that chill. You know, that chill, you know, you have going up your spine. That's dimethyltryptamine. Goosebumps. Oh, goosebumps. That's how your body tells you you're generating stem cells and reducing your age. Now, you want to get younger? Start that in the mind's eye. Watch what happens next. And that's the magic I'm doing. Pretty interesting. Sitting there going, Om Shri Padme Om, and I'm going there. I remember, that's Om Shri Padme Om. That's one of those guys that are in the jackets at the airports, you know, not Jehovah's Witnesses, the worst ones that run around India. I'm a Satsangi. I was initiated by Sharan Singh. And if you want to know the system I'm into, it's Sat Mat, S-A-N-T-M-A-T. I initiated in 1977 when he chose me for initiation. Old Sharan Singh looked me straight in the eye and he said at the moment of my death that he personally was going to be there to take me across the abyss. Sure, I'll go for that one. The best hallucination took me further than any other masters I've ever had.
Wow.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's well, it's satsangi. It's a householder yoga. It's not a religion. It's just you got to be good. You can't eat anything with face for grandparents. Blah 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 blah. You're not supposed to take drugs because it'll cloud the mind for meditation.
Yeah.
You're supposed to meditate. That's the most important one. You're supposed to meditate 2.5 hours a day. 1/10 of your life is devoted to going internal, becoming somewhere else. And I started doing that at a very early age, and then I started studying what that does in terms of brain states and how they relate to altered states for the military. And today, I'm now able to simulate any drug experience from ketamine on down just using sound and light, cymatics.
That's pretty interesting, Rick. That's pretty interesting. A lot
Yeah,
of people, you could put a lot of people out of business with that.
Well, you know what a diamond buddy is? It's a C60 molecule. It's a face-centered cubic hexagonal closed-back structure. You envision that in your mind's eye, and you place yourself in the center of it, so you're inside this diamond. That's a time machine. That's the throne chariot of God, or Ezekiel's vision. And so I practice training my mind, because Richard Miller's first theorem, here we go, this one's the important one. Man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. You start there because you need to control your mind. Your mind is what's creating this. What do we call this? There's a movie that I used to talk about. It's Brazilian. I can't think of the name of it now. Where
Astral
this medical
City?
doctor dies. Oh, what's that?
Astral City?
Say what? Astral City. Thank you. City. That is not the way it works, but it's a metaphor and accurate. And you're down on the physical plane here, whining and moaning, and everything's awful because you're working from a place of wounding. And what you're trying, Astral City, a spiritual journey, that is a movie I strongly recommend that one watches as a metaphor, because it is metaphorically correct in terms of what life and death is and what is and is not going on. Life is pain. If you didn't have pain, neurotransmitters, you wouldn't be alive. What you're trying to do is learn how to cope. You know, put it below a certain level or threshold of awareness so it isn't interfering with your daily life. You know, like my back itches or my foot hurts, or, you know, those kinds of things. And to train the mind to just drop down into this place and hold it is the key to the first steps in magic. And magic is a way. Here's the deal. All roads lead to Rome. What we need is a North Star to know what direction we're heading. Are we going toward or away from Rome? That's why you draw a circle of protection around yourself, a banishing ritual, because you're getting rid of all the evil cooties around you, attitude. An old form of magic would be not to shave or take a bath until you're about to do a ritual. And then you clean yourself and you shave yourself, you're ready. So, like, you're different. From this place to that, go from the profane into the sacred. And the sacred, I guess the common jet word for that today is called the flow, where everything is effortless, that you're not in conflict with anything. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. The sports car is in the track, right in the line, going around the corner perfectly, you know, that kind of thing. That's called the flow, in the track. You never get there, but you approach it as a metaphor like art. It's not a final ending or piece like Simon says, you can go halfway to the door. That's the key. You never get to the door with that protocol because that's not the goal. The goal is the journey. You get closer and closer to the door, but you don't achieve the door because that's not by definition possible. If that made sense.
So
how could you be perfect?
What kind of value?
I mean, what's that?
What kind of value, you know, and bringing these practices into our lives, you know, some people do them for various reasons, and I understand that, you know, I think, you know, we talk about high magic being basically the great work of developing ourselves and, you know, personal development. And, you know, how do you think, you know, there's a couple of questions really. I mean, first of all, there's this one thing about having an eclectic approach to it where you might say, take a bit of this one and a bit of that one and a bit of that, a doodly-doo. And then I've also heard the argument that it's just as important. It may have to do with personality type, but, you know, rather than have an eclectic approach, go for a cohesive system.
Well, in the Appendiciads, they talked about them. Yeah, in the Appendiciads, they talked about them as rays of light. Or you a blue ray having to do with various chakras and where you were coming from. They also had 32 nadi points, NADI. Nadi points were where your oils, fats, and waxes are released. You know, different places on the body that release chemistries that are odoriferous molecules and other forms of communication. That's why a dog can smell you. I taught SEALs, the 8th protocol was neurolinguistics, body language. You know, how did that one kid put it when he asked me the question? He said, if pigs are so smart, how come parrots can talk and pigs can't? And I responded, well, if a pig wants its way on something, it sure knows how to communicate it. Kid got it real quick, you know. You know, if a pig's pissed off, it knows how to get its way. And not a pig, a boar, you know, with tusks and, you know, that kind of thing. Well, have you ever been chased by a boar? I have. That's a real scary process because they run faster than me. You know, you have to go up in a tree. You have to get out of their way, you know,
yep.
As a metaphor. Yeah. It isn't that you can get out of their way easy. When they want to get something, they want to get it. And they're real single-pointed about it. You should be too. And if it's spiritual awareness, it doesn't matter what it costs. I once did magic for $50,000, and I got my 50 grand. A truck ran over me, and it was insurance to pay for my medical. You get it, but not exactly the way you had in mind, kind of thing. So when you do high magic, what you're doing, it doesn't matter what the costs, like spiritual development. If it's going to cost me everything, it's worth it. And for me, that's what's called high magic, the idea of aspiring toward becoming something more than you are. And getting in touch with the other 9/10 of your cerebral cortex, the not I part of self, having union. That's called self-realization. Ira Progoff and others have written about it, but that's only halfway to God. The second half requires a helicopter and usually a guide, a spiritual teacher, someone that came back that didn't have to, no, you don't want to do it that way, you want to do it this way, that kind of thing, a guide. I don't have a desire to be a spiritual teacher this time around. What I'm going to try to do, my purpose is to bring magic into the 22nd century as an advanced form of physics. And if I'm lucky and can do that, man will evolve, because magic is the use of altered states of consciousness as tools in a toolbox, using things like continuous breathing, where you change your perception of things by your body functions. You listen to your body, goosebumps. I'm regenerating tissue right now, that kind of thing. And I think I'm going to induce more goosebumps and generate, and I'm going to now go to age 30. You go down and you start doing it. And believe this or not, I'm discovering I'm becoming younger. Yeah.
Well, you were always,
That's what
you're like you're a young person at heart anyway, aren't you, really, Rick?
Well, I'm bad, naughty boy, but I enjoy the humor of everything because none of this is real. It's a dream. And once you realize that, now you can, with lucid dreaming, can you put your things on hold? That's not a Corvallis. I'm not even going to deal with it. I have been continually bombarded with different people. Julie, if you've got that, go ahead and answer it. Yeah, they'll leave a message, I hope. Knock on wood. Corvallis, Oregon. That's the university there, probably. I don't know. Anyway, I apologize. And I don't have any control. I am getting a lot of... oh, this line's recorded. How are you doing today? Who's calling? Click. Don't hang up on me. Hi, you're on a recorded line. How are you doing today? Who's calling? Click. And then I call him back. Oh, click. And then the third time I call him back, they'll have a recording. If you'd like to be removed from this thing, then you press 2. We'll see if that works. I pressed 2. And what I'd like to do is release some kind of virus down the line and freak out their telephones and really show them what it's like to be harassed. I've got time domain reflectometry and a thing so I can send a signal down the line. I can figure out exactly within feet where they are down there tapped into my line. That's a simple oscilloscope and a signal generator. You have to go ping, and when it bounces back, it'll tell you how quickly it bounces back on the scope. And that tells you how many feet down they are. Oh, they're at 1,200 feet. Let's see. Oh, there's that truck. There it is. Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. And then, of course, there's, what do I got here? I got little toys I can pull out. The best one, of course, everybody should have, for magic anyway, the trifield meter. You know, one of these guys testing and to see what's going on, one of these trifield meters. But even better than that is a bug detector that has a little light in it. And I can determine if I've got a bug up with one of these little devices military gave me. It's a little bug meter and things like that. I am a person of interest, and it's pissing me off. And that's why I don't use proton mail, because I want to be transparent. You can break proton mail. Proton mail was developed by the military. It's like pretty good privacy and, all the rest of it. So what's the sense of thinking you're secure when you're not? This computer, when I finish this interview, I'll unplug the camera and I'll unplug the mic because they both go hot, even when my computer's off. The telephone, it's off, and it's listening to me when it's off. That's just the landline. I'm not talking about your chips that you have. Exactly.
These things are These things are creepy, man.
Well, they're toxic too. There's an LD50 ratio. It means you're not going to have any more children with 3 eyes. They're at least going to have at least 4 or 5 eyes now.
I don't keep it in my pocket anymore either. I don't take it with me when I go.
So what would you like to discuss? What would you like to discuss? What we had.
Well, absolutely. I've just got a quick question here from the chat, Rick, that I'll put up. And that is,
sure.
Somebody's mentioned that they also have a didgeridoo. And don't you think it sounds like the Om, the Vedic Om?
You mean the lost chord with Dark Nights? Yeah. I love the lost chord. The what is it? Gaia at the end of the rainbow singing what Terence McKenna called 0-point energy, the hydrogen vibration molecule. AUM, That's Moody Blues. Moody Blues, bless their hearts, had a major effect on me as a music thing back in the 60s. You know, I mean, we're talking about incredible music. Even back then, England was always ahead of everybody. The Beatles, the Cars, and whatever. We had a few of our own, like David Byrne, Talking Heads. But even David Bowie, whenever he came into the United States, he always made a beeline to Seattle, and I got to know him because of my big bookstore and magic shop. He could get books in my store that he couldn't find anywhere else. I have some incredible ones here. Let me just pull one down that you may not have ever heard of before. How about the Necronomicon by Giger, the guy that did Alien and Predator. It's autographed too, by the way. It's a big old book with Giger. He belongs to a Swiss lodge with my father and my grandfather belonged to, and I got to know Giger. Giger is the artist that did Alien and Predator and has a book called Necronomicon. Necronomicon, of course, is from the 20s, and that's just, I have a lot of books, you know, different things that I do. Creepy books. Just in magic. Oh, here's one. Can you read that one? It's in German. Yeah.
Is that what?
Liebestat und Kunst zu lieben. On aphrodisiacs. And what they did, it's my magical and ritual use of aphrodisiacs. But I have, you know, it's a German version. I have another one that is using Aleister Crowley's artwork rather than mine, because I was back then in German lodges and with Sphinx and Verlagen, which were my publishers in Switzerland, published a lot of my stuff in a lot of different languages. I even have the magical and ritual use of perfumes is in Hebrew. Goes from back to forward in Hebrew. I notice we have a very bad band connection, don't we?
Yeah, it's okay. Your audio is coming through okay enough to be sort of listenable, but the video is actually improving. It's it's improving as the more we do it. So maybe it's strengthening or something, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I could do is kill them all. Sorry, I'll behave myself. Yeah, I've got it all. Actually, what I've really got is the bud that I grow with my little chilling pot. It's all legal. I'm not doing illegal. And then I have a whole set of new tarot cards for my new tarot book I'm doing, which is our business cards. Yeah. Oh no, that's an artist will do a business card, which is, you know, a business card that she gives you, and I've got them for every. I guess I have to do it that way. Yeah, these are business cards, and what this was is a bunch of artists out of San Antonio. What's that?
Show them again. I've just made the screen
bigger see one?
So people can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just show you one here, for example. This is one artist, and she's in. And here's another one. Oh wow, that's the sun. Awesome. And that's her business card. Whoops, sorry. 72 of them. It's just a bunch of artists that got together in San Antonio. Here's one called The World.
Yeah, very
Begin Where You Are. And her business card. Each one's different. I've got hundreds of them. Hundreds of them. And as part of a new tarot book I'm doing called The Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. And the way you use this book is that it presumes you have either one story or more than one story going on inside you. That means you're either possessed, one story, like Psyche at the Well of Souls, or you have multiple stories. And mostly you and I might have 5 to 7 different storyboards going on. Each one has an ending. Your job is to determine which storyboards are going on and then determine whether or not you like the ending of each one. If you don't, then you change the movie using pathworking. That's my
How
message.
can people start preparing themselves? I mean, like, you know, would studying Greek mythology, because I know you use Greek mythology in your pantheon, would that be helpful to people if they're
Well, I
awaiting the
chose
release of
the
your book?
pantheon. I could have used Egyptian pantheon, but the problem is Egyptian pantheon is more animalistic, and it's harder to identify than the Greek forms, which were more human. Like Persephone having to go to Hades, you know, once a year. Everybody can relate to, I have to go to visit my parents once a year, you know, whatever. Going to, you know, Persephone, well, it's metaphor. And once you understand the relationships of saying there are 22 stories in the big city, and try to identify which ones you're following as an archetype, then each one has an ending. You know, and if you don't like the ending, you change the movie. That's what pathworking is about, or my system of magic. Now, that's the 22nd century. That's not the 20th century, 21st century. Crowley got into Liber Aleph. Oh man, that's an exceptional book. That's one of my most favorite. The one I use mostly. I'll flip a coin, come up with a page number, and open it up and read it. And somehow I figure out how that relates to what's going on right now. That's how I use Crowley. And, you know, his suffering. Well, yeah, Liber Aleph, wisdom or folly, you know, and I'm 6 points of this and 7 of that. Court low.
I remember listening to your metaphysics. I remember listening to one of your metaphysics courses, and you mentioned in there as one of the exercises for the class was to basically get yourself a paper copy of Liber Aleph and just flick through it and stop somewhere, and then dialogue with yourself about the relationship.
Let it tell you where you're supposed to go. Let the movie begin.
Yeah, that's it. And somebody's just put a comment in the chat saying bibliomancy.
Oh yeah, geomancy is another form. It's older schools and German, Franz Hartmann and some of those guys. I always liked American forms better, but wir wollen Deutsche bleiben. We all German here, and I can't go into neuromancy, but I've dealt with enough of the dead. What I want to do now is be alive again, and so that's what my teacher wrote. His book, Sharon Sang, was titled Die to Live. And it's about meditation and the little death of ego. How do you respond to that one? Huh? Okay,
sorry, go. Yep.
What? Well, he was also a Prime Minister of India, my teacher. So, you know, he's a little bit of this and a little more of that. He was a Punjabi out of Bias, India, and up in the northern part near Pakistan. So he has a turban and, you know, he does his thing. The religion had nothing to do with the meditational part. And his grandfather was Sawan Singh, great master, the one that Paul Twitchell and Eckankar are based around, and the archetypes of those forms. His counterpart this century in Canada was Kirpal Singh. Kirpal Singh was mostly up in Canada. They're different. The lineage went to Sharon Singh, but it doesn't really matter. They're the same, going to the same place, approximately the same manner, you know. And so I don't have, and I understand now. My teacher's dead. Sharon Singh is dead now, but the new master, Gurundar Singh, he's not my teacher, but I understand he's even better than my teacher as terms of wisdom. He's younger, and if you want, there's a local sangat in every city. There's Satmat. You can go online and find one, and they have the doors open for group meditation, and the process is self-meditation. To go for initiation, you have to be a vegetarian for at least 1 full year. And so I didn't eat anything with a face or grandparents for a long period. And later I discovered blood types, and I'm O negative, which means I don't have the ability to produce certain enzymes out of beans and rice that I needed. And I found that when I eat a fish and some other meats like that once in a while, I'm a little healthier. It varies, just like drugs. You can take prescription drugs, but if it's recreation, that clouds the mind of meditation. Now, in Larry's book, which I think was a book on magic, which is the Bordeaux Thedal, called the his book on LSD, it states that in that book that the Buddhists had 4 reasons for getting high, and only one of them was for recreation and escape. There's 3 other reasons for aspiring for higher consciousness, and what we call Jonathan states JHANTA, or cosmic states of awareness. And there are 8 of those out of the Upanishads, and I've been writing about those as a form. Sex magic is where you're actively changing the movie with full ego participation. You have the trance, art, and creative states, prototaxic modes, parataxic modes, and syntactic modes of consciousness. And that's John Curtis Gowan out of Northridge. And the way you work with archetypes and dream states as opposed to a shaman that can place its consciousness in an eagle and see what the eagle sees. Now, the reason it's called prototaxic mode is because it's a low level of awareness. And I started there by teaching shamanism. I studied with Mircea Eliade and then started teaching that at University of Washington and Evergreen. I was first faculty at Evergreen. And from there, parataxic modes, or dream states, working archetypal forms of consciousness, is working with dreams and mythology, and where a lot of people hang out in magic. But syntactic modes of consciousness would mean full awareness of directing the mind, like doing biofeedback, hypnosis, neurolinguistics, where you have a participation or union between consciousness and your higher self, working as a team. And when you do that place, you're now in what I would call a magical state of grace, where you're aspiring towards something more than where you are. And it has nothing to do with anyone else or anything else, because it's different for each of us. And that place, I have some guide rules, and I can send you uploads for individuals that want to go on their own. Mary Height and others have written about self-initiation. You don't need to join a club to be initiated. There are self-initiation forms. What's that, sir?
I would really love
what were you
that.
going to say?
Self-initiation information would be awesome, Doc. I'd love to get my hands on that, to share it as well.
Okay, that'd be fine. Yeah, where you don't need to. Why people do clubs and things like that, magical orders, churches, is for fellowship and having or finding someone with similar and common goals or belief systems and or values that you would like to reinforce in yourself. And so you choose to go to this church because they believe this and they do that. And you're not a very good one, but you join that for the fellowship of reinforcement by being around people that are doing the same thing. The same thing with magical orders or self-initiation, where you just are a grum humbug and don't want to be around anybody but yourself and doing it on your own. In all cases, all systems work. That's what I meant. All roads lead to Rome. But you need a North Star to determine which direction you're going. The one I used was psychic self-defense. That should be the first read of everyone, so that right out of the gate, Dean's Fortune, so you can get it as a freebie on downloads as a PDF. You should read that. She's the one that talks about circle of protection that Faust uses with Mephistopheles, Walt Disney does with, you know, Sorcerer's Apprentice, that kind of thing. What that is, ritual, is the celebration of a mythology. And what you're doing when you draw a circle and begin the magic ceremony, you're now doing a formal switch. It isn't that you're just always doing it. That's what the purpose of ritual is being the switch when you turn it on and you turn it off in sacred time over profane. Right now, you and I are in profane, and if I was going to do ritual, I would go click, and then I would start boom, and I send it circle around me, and everything inside that is me, and everything outside that is not me. That's a metaphor, you know, circle of protection, so that you're not consorting with demons and they're going, and you think it's you talking to yourself. When you do the switch, it's your mind's eye, not the ritual, that makes it real. And everybody's different. And at some point, you don't do it like that because it's automatic. Like how I do it differently than you. And that's because each of us does it differently. And why you do not learn something, you study it. That means you take my process and you integrate it with your own and make it yours. And that's why everybody does Tai Chi differently and everybody blows a didgeridoo differently. I even have a bull roar when I want to talk to like smoke language. Just kidding.
I've got a question. I've got a question for you, Doc.
What's that?
I've got a question for you.
What? Sure.
I have a question. Can you describe what is initiation?
In how many words?
In a nutshell, best version. Initiation, self-initiation. What is initiation? The beginning of the journey?
From going from persona to me. Persona is what you perceive as me, and I'm putting on a little fake. I'm a, you know, whatever I am, strong, you know, that kind of thing. And that's where I'm going from persona to me and having union. That's what initiation is. Knowledge and conversation, your higher self. Having dialogue or self-actualization, halfway to God. That's what initiation is about. And once you do that, it's a done deal. And you realize, oh my God, I got all this place to go. How do you get there for me? You can't, because it doesn't work like that. But that's a good place to start.
Thank you.
Did that make sense?
Another question for you. Yeah, that was great. Thank you. I've got another question for you.
So, are you sure it's great? I kind of like it. All right.
Sweet as. So in regards to brain drivers, now some people have been using brain drivers for years, and they find that after a while they seem to not be as effective anymore. And I kind of feel that they're like a training wheel for people to reach states, but then the job is to actually move down into them. And I've got another question after this, but I'd love to hear about, you know, how long the effectiveness of brain drivers is before you really need to let go of them.
Brain drivers are to reset your brain from where it is right now to, and once the brain's set there, then the drivers are no longer needed. You do them on your own, and you slowly slip. And over another 4 or 5 years, you need to go back and use them again. you can only go so far, and each person goes to a different place, just like taking a polysaccharide. Some people can take 6 grams before they have loose stool. Some people can only take 3 grams before they start getting loose stool. Too much oxygen in the body, that kind of thing. Everybody's different. Has to do with microbiome and bacteria and all the crap, personalities, and whether or not you're nuts. I'm kidding. But brain drivers are to reset the brain, and there will be a bifurcation where at some point you've been playing them for about a week or 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, and your brain is starting to function correctly again and got reset over the cultural programming that it had. Once you have that, now it is a simple matter to change a belief system like you would a pair of clothing. And that fades like biofeedback. I can take my finger, this finger right here, and I can change in less than 3 minutes. I can change it up 8 or down 8 degrees just by meditation on my blood flow and the blood flowing through my hand. Now, it took me 3 years to learn how to do that, and it took me 20 years to forget how to do it. And so I go back for reinforcement. And when you've done it for 40 years, you don't forget how to do it anymore, because it becomes part of self. And the brain drivers are the same. They're to reset your brain with frequency following and cling, and then your brain starts functioning correctly. And when it's in that place right there, now you can do some things with your body in terms of changing a belief system. Taking clothing off because it's hot doesn't mean you get rid of the belief. But going into Afghanistan as a Christian could get your team killed. See what I'm talking? As a metaphor. Okay. I have a different outlook on what demons are as well, and angels. So, angels are higher entities than man, and demons are lesser entities. And in psychology, they call it projection of the shadow, which is in order to see something evil in somebody, it has to be in you so you can recognize it. And what a shadow is your shadow on the ground. When I move this way, the shadow moves this way. It's part of me. And in the Upanishads, the books I translated suggested that demons were considered attributes in men deemed unworthy. Anger, rage, jealousy, sloth, there were 72 different qualities in us each that were not deemed worthy. And so anger is not a bad thing to get rid of, because I can't think of a perfect demon to wash your kitchen floor. If you know how to use these things, like Bruce Lee talks about taking water and containerizing it, that's what a demon is. It's having the name of the demon, is having control of it. That's Enoch. And it isn't mystical like they're little creepy things. And, they're one way of looking at a demon, not the way, but a way, is that it's a part of self, like anger or jealousy or insecurities. And, you don't want to be jealous of something, do you? You want to be grateful that the girl fell in love with someone else. At least now I know. Right? Say, it's a way of relating to, good luck with that, yeah. I want to shoot him. Well, the way I figured it, if the woman doesn't want to be with me, I'm really grateful to discover that.
Yes.
You understand what
yes,
I'm trying
that's
to say?
a good point.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, it's the point, and it's a way of being. And if you're sovereign into yourself, there's no way you can love somebody until you're in love with yourself. And I'm not talking about narcissism as much as I'm a work in progress. Oops. I'm not who I want to be yet. But I'm getting closer and closer. I don't sound like Ellen Watts, but I will.
Hey, I've got another question for you.
Sure.
So just back on the conversation of the brain drivers, there is a stepping stone that some courses use, one in particular, that gets you moving from brain drivers onto brain drivers that have an underlay of pink noise. And then you move from that onto a track that's pink noise, which sounds a lot like water rushing. It sounds like a waterfall. And so it acts as a form of sensory deprivation in a sense, because when you have pink noise in your ears, you can't really hear anything else. And I'm guessing that this is to
Bill
do with,
Harris, Scientology. Could it be Satan? That's Scientology and a group up north in Portland. Scientology uses such systems. Bill Harris.
Okay, I got that from Tom Campbell from the Monroe Institute. Well, not from the Monroe Institute.
Monroe,
but Tom Campbell.
That's Hemisync to be distinguished from Holosync. They're just, you say tomato, I say tomato. Hemisync. Yeah. Robert Monroe originally was at Berkeley and keyed off of the biofeedback laboratory that I built at Menninger Foundation out of Seattle. We had a single gain amplifier that could measure in 10 to the minus 6 variation and brain currents. And we had an electroencephalograph that we studied such people as Keith Milton Reinhardt from the Aquarian Foundation or Jack Schwartz, Alethea. These guys like Jack Schwartz, he's out of Portland. He could take a pin, a needle, stick it through his arm, pull it back out, got bushing out, and just stop the bleeding. Now, if you don't think the military didn't want to know how that one worked, how's that work, son? That's the Menninger Foundation to study that kind of thing. And that's where biofeedback, and that's where Monroe first started his works in Berkeley. And then later when they moved to the East Coast and started up the Hemisync, is what they call it. Different than Holosync, which is the Scientology version of it. And Scientology is a method of science using the goal of religion using the method of science, kind of like some of the other religions like Unity Church and stuff like that. Different. Each one has agendas, and what you're seeking is not a process. What you're seeking is your own way to Rome. And that's what the whole thing about self-initiation, not joining clubs, but taking from this group that thing, and Tai Chi from there, and my cookie-doo from here, and my diet from there, and integrating it and making it unique, which is yours.
That's a really good point.
That's a really good point.
Because
that is what's real magic.
I've tried some systems.
Could I get you just to turn your speaker volume down a little bit? It's feeding back.
Oh, is it too loud? Yes, I'm so sorry.
I can hear myself feeding back. Yeah. So what I wanted to say to the watchers, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's watching and listening right now so much. And please, if you've got a question, throw it into the chat, and I'll pose it to the doc. But I wanted to say that this journey I found trying other systems, and it was when I was using these systems that I kept my mind busy, but I found that my own way, my own magic, my own way of doing things, and this is far more rewarding than I think. But there's a discipline in using other traditions as well, like doing your circle, the casting the pentagrams and doing a lesser banishing ritual and things. But there's also these magics of our own that we find and discover, and they become innately our own, and that's where we become more knowing of ourselves. It's like a true sense of gnosis, as opposed to say following another system. And I think part of it
what you're describing is the distinction between being a Minerval, a neophyte, a Minerval, and a minor adept.
Okay, please explain.
Your different grades. You have stages of development. And at this end, we're all doing the same thing. This end, I'm starting to kick the ball over the goal a little differently than the other guy does. And now I can throw a better pass than he can, but he can do a better kick than I can. And then up here, we're and you become a major adept. And then you become master of the temple. That means you create your own universe. That's grade 7. my father put grade 7 like this. And if you're above grade 7, depending on which system you're using, whether it's masonry or it's OTO, usually there's 10 degrees. There's only one person at the 10th degree, which is the Caliphate, or the Hymenaeus Beta Alpha. He's the alpha of the tribe or the group. There's the vulgar, the adept, and the exempt. And the vulgar get audited. You have to pay your dues. The adept gets money back from the club because they're so important. And the exempt has a 501c3. They don't pay taxes. That's Moda, Brazilian Lodge. My friend Matt Abe wants to be Brazilian Lodge. He was head of the Brazilian Secret Service for 42 years, and I moved him from voodoo into OTO. His son now runs the Brazilian Secret Service, so don't mess with me because I've got several cracking. I'm just kidding.
I've got another question for you, Doc.
Right. Yes, please.
Which paradise does your guest, Dr. Rick, wish to reside in the afterlife? Which paradise would you like to reside in the afterlife, Rick? That's an interesting question.
What paradise? You mean a pair of dice? Come on, baby. Roll them. No. What are we talking about? Waking up? Oh, waking up. Yeah. Because this is a dream. And death is the opposite of life. It's not the end of life. If you saw life as a dream, then death would be waking up. And the Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists, will talk about that in their Bordeaux Thadal. They say at the moment of death, God gives you one last choice. As God said, you have a choice. You either get off the wheel and into the blue light, or you have the tunnel of light, where all your friends are, hi, come on back. The water's fine. You're a little Ralphie dog that you lost in a previous life, and there he is waiting, wagging his tail. That tunnel of light looks a lot like a birth canal. And at the moment of death, when there is a 5-gram weight loss in everybody. What is that, the soul? Well, we don't know what that means other than the weight is probably structured water in a microtubule outside the physical body. Microtubule is a protein wrap with structured water in it. 5 grams. 5 grams is enough memory as a metaphor for more than 100,000 lifetimes. You're in a video game if you want to look at it as a metaphor like that in the distant future, because time isn't real. It's a duration of consciousness. And this place here, you can keep coming back to it 100,000 times, because the memory part just in that 5-gram weight loss is got it all right there. Boom, to do. But that's a Buddhist way of looking at it. You can go into the Egyptian books of the dead, or you can go back into the Upanishads and talk about the voice of the silence and the lost chord, which we started this program with. Yes. And we all are going to the same place. It's just, which direction are you going? You're going to Satan. No, I'm just kidding. You have a choice, and you need a North Star. And that is the primary purpose of ritual, set and setting, as the way Leary put it.
Okay, that's this is really good stuff, Rick, because there's a lot of people waking up, or hopefully there are. They're looking for something to ground themselves.
It's the last evil in Pandora's box, man. It's not about hope. It's about behind, getting up off the couch and walking. Not having another Dorito. That's a metaphor. Sloth. Well, it's a lot of work to try to become spiritual and try to do the right thing, to walk the talk. That's the distinction between ethics and morals. An ethical man knows not to cheat on his wife. A moral man won't. And that's the deal, trying to walk the talk. None of us are that good. I'm not. I try, and I try not to make the same mistake twice, and I'm constantly judging myself, not you, not others, myself, and finding myself wanting, and I try to do better each time. And so you really can't get there from here. It's more like a process, you know? It's the way you do it. That's what spirituality is, not what you do, but how you do it. And how did Batman put it? It's not who you are that defines who you are. It's what you do. And spirituality is how you did that. And that's your stag and the unicorn in the forest. Soul and spirit within matter. Is my volume okay now?
Yeah, that's not too bad. Yep, no, that's good. There's a little bit of feedback still, actually. I can still hear myself coming through your speaker.
Yeah, that's
I'll just turn down a little bit.
Someone messing with us, and that is something continuous. And I apologize. The internet wasn't like this. At some point, we'll have to switch over to the dark web.
Yep,
I'm just kidding.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with the dark web. If you, you know, that's a very big part of the world that's not tapped into. I've just been learning about the dark web. But anyway, Rick, I just wanted to say, look, you know, we've reached the bottom of we've reached the first hour. I've put a call out there to anyone that wants to ask some questions. So anyone in the chat who would like to pose a question to Rick, please put it through. Somebody's put in, I'm not sure if this is a comment or a question, but I'll just say it anyway. Someone's asking, explain the spirits. And you kind of did touch on this, you know. Okay, Rick, what's your take on the spirit, on the nature of spirits, disembodied and discarnate entities or angels, and these types of things? You know, some people would call them
the place that
entities.
Yeah. Entities, yeah. Thought forms. It's like infrared signature that gets locked into glass, the heat signature. You know, it'll capture a little heat thing, and if you do the glass correctly in a forensic lab, you can pull up faces in it. A ghost and a poltergeist. A ghost is something that just died. A poltergeist is something that died a long time ago and is starting to decay, so it's no longer human. And the poltergeist then is different than a ghost, which is more human. And then over a period of time, there are maggots on an astral plane as a metaphor that will begin to deteriorate the ghost into a poltergeist. Now, that concept of thought into matter, psyche into matter, has to do, again, with neurotransmitters dialoguing with subtle bodies outside the physical body. And that most of you are familiar with is chi. I'm going to send you a paper that has been modified, something I wrote a long time ago, called the Omega Principle, the energy that patterns randomness. And that's in part as a chapter in the non-local mind, where it relates chi and orgone and prana and all these different names that we've had throughout history of these subtle bodies outside the physical body, where your mind's eye is more actively participating in changing the movie. And where you are right now, placebo maybe accounts for 10% of your health. But you generate a specific neurotransmitter, and now you can raise that to 60% and heal yourself with your mind's eye. That's what mushrooms and the psychedelic parts of studies that are all about right now. Mushroom itself is a toxin, but what it does is it stimulates the brain in producing that look-alike neurotransmitter that is part of you, and it's just you suppressed it so that, like, your third eye is calcified and, you know, crust it all up. And what you're trying to do is open it back up by changing. That's why kids are taking psychedelics. The thing is, they're toxins, and just using visualization exercises in your mind's eye, training your mind, you'd be surprised what you can do. Unbelievable. And that's the part where advanced physics is now going to begin to study altered states as tools in a toolbox. When you watch an ant lifting 10 times its weight, how do you say, well, that's the exoskeleton? No, it isn't. It's in an altered state as a group consciousness that you can experience with methamphetamine. But rather than take that terrible toxin, which is a terrible toll on your body, how do you do it naturally where it's part of your divine right? And that's the part I'm interested in and where I'm studying now.
Yeah, and you know, being able to call on your inner resources and to and to need less stimulants, say, from the outside world.
You can do the chill. You know that chill. You know the chill that you get there, and you have it up and down your spine. Shri Aurobindo Gopai Krishna. What that is exactly is little philia that are sticking off the spine at an angle, and it starts to oscillate, and it causes the other one, and a signal goes up or down the spine. And that signal is release of dimethyltryptamine, and that light beam, electromagnetic one, happens to be in the visible light region. If you do your skull just right, you can stimulate the pineal gland, set up a resonant cavity oscillation in the neural cavity, and now you can regenerate nerve tissue. I mean, there's a lot of tool things here that we have ignored over the centuries that I'd like to begin studying in science. And so I've got a couple of papers I can send you. Omega Principle, and that one will be another one on the biological function of the third eye. Another part of the non-local mind book. We got a bunch of books coming out.
We're always looking forward to your books, Rick. You can't put them out fast enough for us. How is the book situations at the moment? Like, what's going on, man? Tell us give us an update on your writing.
Well, my book sales are down because Amazon and Ingram are ripping me off by publishing all my titles without permission. I'm getting no royalties, nothing from them. So if you want my book, you buy it from my website. And if you live overseas, I've got a special section on where you can get a group of books cheaper and have it be the same price as single book buying it and landing it in New Zealand or Australia. My non-local mind, or the Heart Tools book, it's like $21, and it costs $22 to land it in Australia. But for $30, I'll give you 2 workbooks, and it'll still land at $21. And so I have specials for overseas if you don't want to buy ebooks. All of my stuff is in ebook as well, just because of the expense of shipping outside the United States. If you're inside the United States, then everything's really cheap with bulk mail. You know, it goes printed mail. About 1/10 the cost the first class is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think too, like, you know, there's something special about having a hard copy, and I don't mind paying extra when I've got the cash to get the hard copy over the digital copy. I look at a screen a lot. I'm looking forward to
I'm going to also send you, I'm going to send you, for this interview, I'm going to send you some download papers that you're welcome to attach to the interview, so that if they wanted more knowledge, they've got it and they just download it. Is that possible? If I sent you some documents, PDFs?
Yeah, I can.
You
what
can post
I
them on
can
your
do is,
okay.
Yep. As long as there's a source
And
link, because I'll put it as an internet link.
Yeah, make it part of this. If they want to know what the Holy Guardian Angel is, here's the way I did it. Union with self. It's a ritual, and you do it for 6 months, and there's one part in there where there's a vow of silence where you can't talk for 2 weeks, and you have to write everything down if you want to. It's a discipline of learning how to communicate without talking. Good luck with that.
Abramelin.
It takes a lot of skill to be able to have that kind of discipline. And when you start to train your mind, you'd be surprised what you can do. It's really exciting to know the value. And the self-initiation, I have several things. I'll send you on all of that.
That would be awesome. Okay, awesome.
Okay, yeah, good. So it isn't just this interview. You have some protocols to read and follow before you even begin your own journeys. Keep a diary. Everybody listen to me. Yeah. Keep a diary. That's more important than anything. That's your magical memory. And date it and time it, like 2 o'clock Thursday, the 20th, whatever. This is the 21st right now, but Friday. But I don't know. What is it in your Saturday now?
Yep, our Saturday.
Yep, now Saturday.
Yeah, well, see, it's still Friday night here, so I haven't had dinner yet. I'm gonna try to help you become a resource for other things. If I could print my books in Australia or New Zealand, you could get them a lot cheaper. That's how Amazon can beat small printers and writers like myself. They are so big, they have their outlets in all the different countries, and so they can ship instead of first class from the United States, which is very expensive. So I have choices. You can have group books where you buy 3 books for the same price and land it for the same cost as a single book, and or ebooks. And then I'll give you lots of freebie stuff to make you feel like you're getting your value, because that's really, it's not about money as much as it is an exchange of information one side to the other. And what they're doing for me is they're slowly trying to take me out in various forms of radio and like that. And but I'm a polymath, and so it's hard to shut someone like me down, because they drop me down in magic, then I'll just pop back up in physics. If they pop me down in physics, I'll pop up again as agriculture. Elixir Vitae. Right. Yeah, a sleight of mind. That's what magic is. It's sleight of mind. It's not sleight of hand. It's sleight of mind.
What would be on top of
using your mind?
Fortune book.
Cool.
On top
What's that?
Instead of as well as the Dion Fortune Psychic Self-Defense book, is there another key book that you would recommend people who are looking to get an understanding of the greater reality?
Well, that's the one I did. There's lots of different books on how to protect yourself. Franz Hartmann, the best series I've ever done was Richard Cavendish, and he did a 24-volume Man, Myth, and Magic. This is possibly the finest set of books I've ever gotten in terms of literalness. This one's Encyclopedia of the Supernatural. And wow. Richard Cavendish, Butler is a good writer. Those are all ones I started with. I started with the Theosophical Society, then went into the Church of All Worlds, and then got into Carl and Sandra Wachewski at Llewellyn, and then Don Weiser as Weisers, and then I started writing my own book with Inner Truths, ITI, and Thorson Publishing, Bear and Sphinx and Verlagen. I've been writing for over 50 years, so, I've been around a long time. I'm starting to smell bad. Probably they're going to get ready to bury me or something.
Okay. Well, hey, Doc, look, we're coming up to the end of the coming up to the 90-minute mark, and I don't know, like I'm good. That, yeah, that's cool.
I'm always available.
I just wanted to ask you if you've got any events coming up that you would like to share with people.
I'd love to. Website up. If you could. Okay, here's how you do it. You want to bring me into New Zealand? It'll take 3 to 5 workshops in different locations and in between for a 2-week period. And I need about 40 people at each. By the way, go all the way down at the bottom of the page on this one. Wait a minute. Nope. Up one more. Up one more. Up one more. Up. That's Asha Deliverance. She's in Ashland, Oregon, building your own geodesic domes. I have just met the individual that he's a 4th generation tool and die man that can print a 30-foot geodesic dome in porous concrete with magnesium in 24 hours. That's where we're going. Geodesic domes. I wrote a screenplay for Fox called The Domes of Mars. And so these are all small, they're different size domes. The 3D printer will print one of those in porous concrete If you buried 2/3 of it, that would be suitable for Mars. And the top part be, you know, optics for your plants and growth and so on.
Fascinating.
That's Asha Deliverance in Ashland, Oregon. She's a personal friend of mine. So just thought I'd point out some of that stuff. That's going to be the new direction probably in smaller housing. And we have some huge ones in Chicago that do concerts and, you know, for 2,000 and 4,000 people, big geodesic domes. They're better than monolithic domes and earthships. This is the form that Buckminster Fuller developed. And that's a new book that I have out called The Marshall Papers on Bob Marshall and the idiot savant that Buckminster Fuller used to generate and create this concept of a diamond body. That, by the way, right there is C60 buckyball.
That shape.
Yeah, it's structurally stronger than anything in the universe. That's the bottom line.
Because of this, is we can obviously see a hexagon in there, but it's
yeah, that's what it is. It's a geodesic dome. Geodesic, yeah. And I wrote, when I studied with Roger Penrose, he had written The Mathematical Universe, a geometric universe. That was his work. And my advance on his works, or another footprint, was called the dodecahedral universe. That's what that is, dodecahedron. And the universe is a dodecahedron. That's the way light expands out from the Big Bang. As we understand it today, tomorrow somebody will write a better paper and correct me, and I'll be wrong.
Fair enough. Yeah, well, I mean, looking at this here, I mean, you know, even the psychological effect of living or waking up in a room that's not a square or a cube. Isn't there a deep psychological kind of interplay here based on the shape of our living
sacred
environment?
geometry, and when you envision sacred geometry in your mind's eye, you create cymatics. And that's the other direction I'm going, okay? That's sacred geometry there. You find it in nature.
Yes.
Honeycomb.
And there's less corners for all the cooties to start building up in if you're not in a square as well.
Yeah. So it goes downhill from there. Anyway, it's been my pleasure.
Oh, Rick, it's always great to have you on. Thanks again, brother. And, you know, it's always, you know, that was a really good session we've just had here. I hope that the audience has taken much value from it. I think that I mean, I've watched a lot of your interviews and videos, and so I could even watch this again. Sorry?
Yeah, I'll send you some papers that will help reinforce what we covered so that, you know, it's reading and listening to me over a period of time. You hear something different each time, but then I'll give you some written material as well that will help concretize or visualize in your mind's eye. Once you have it here, that's what makes it real. Your mind's eye. That is where it all happens.
Excellent, excellent. And
great.
Okay, then. Well, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone in the chat, in the audience who's pulled in with us. Thank you so much, Brother Rick. We'll let you go so you can go and have some dinner. A big grateful thank you to you for all of your wonderful wisdom sharings and so on and so forth. And please, everyone, go to Rick's website and buy his books direct. Do not buy from anyone else except directly from Rick's website. In a kind, loving voice.
Nice being with you again. Feel free to have me as frequently as you need me.
Thank you so much, Rick. I'll let you go, brother. Cheers. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for coming in today. It's been a real pleasure. I just want to say, for those of you who have been enjoying my podcast series that I've been developing, there's an option here for those of you who might want to support me, whether it's to send me, say, an encouraging email. I could always do a little bit of encouragement or praise and so on. If you'd like to make a monetary donation, man, that would be awesome too. And my PayPal details are there. And, you know, like I said, a big thank you to everyone. And what we'll do is to finish the podcast off is the way that we started it. Bring your hands together. Pull your hands away from your body, your arms away from your body. Take a deep breath in with me through the nose. Feeling the belly expand and the rib cage expand. Hold it and release. And let yourself sink down a little bit. Taking another deep breath in. Feeling your torso expand from the bottom up. Feeling wide, feeling expansive, feeling open, and release. Last one. Take a deep, full breath in. Feels good, right? Hold it. Let it all move around the extremities, tips of toes, fingertips, all the rest of it, top of your head. Hold it and release. Too easy, right? Thank you for joining me once again. You guys have a beautiful week, and we'll see you in the next bunch of days. See you later.